Hey everyone, Liz here from the Nail Hub, and today I am back to get further into our discussion about pricing our services. I did kind of jump from Herman's mindset videos straight into a discussion about pricing because I'm trying to address the big blind spots that a lot of us are suffering from within the nail industry. And I think that service pricing is probably one of the biggest errors that a lot of nail technicians and salon owners make. And that really stems from the problem that we don't really understand how to develop a price. So a lot of us, what we end up doing is we go online and we refer to our peers to give us an idea on what we should be charging for a specific service. But the peers that we're relying on are usually on social media and they are spread out across the country or across the world, and they aren't going to give us a direct answer for our specific market. So I wanted to go over today the four main components of how you're going to develop your price. And even if you already have set pricing, I want you to do this analysis to review and revisit your salon menu to see if this actually makes sense and see if your prices are well aligned with this strategy. All right, so let's start with the four main components that we're going to use to develop a service price. Service prices don't just come out of thin air. They're actually something that we need to develop based on seriously researched information. So the four main components that I have listed here are competition, demand, production costs, and what clients are willing to spend. I want to really focus on competition and what clients are willing to spend first, because I do think that that really is the most unique part about our specific market. And obviously demand is also part of our specific market as well, depending on where we live, depending on the seasonality of things. Everybody's market is going to be a little bit different. So let's talk quickly about competition. Obviously, we all have competitors in any industry, and if you don't have competition, then you're a very lucky person or business, because 99.9% of the time, we always have a competitor in our same market. Now, a lot of people get confused about competition because they start to associate every other business that offers the same services their competition. But I would argue that you need to get a little bit more granular with your idea of competition. So let's say you're a higher end nail technician or salon, which most of you watching these videos probably are. A lot of you are comparing yourselves against walk-in salons that are not appointment based and are just kind of, whatever walk-in services come through the door, they're going to be servicing those. There's a lot of names for them, but I like to refer to them as either non-standard salons or walk-in salons. And they tend to rely more on quantity of clientele than the quality or the services that they're offering. They're just a well-oiled factory line, and they just get people in and out on a turnstile. So a lot of you are comparing yourselves and your pricing ideas against businesses like that, when in fact you are a more specialty or niche business. Now remember that we as nail technicians ultimately are not scalable. So if you're working by yourself, there's really only so many clients you can work on, and you're going to need less clients in order to be able to facilitate your business. A business that is relying on extremely cheap prices and very high volume of clientele is going to need more nail technicians working, because they have to squeeze in that many more people a day in order to make the same amount of money. Remember the calculations I did for you in my last video about the actual volume of services and how we can actually do less volume of services at a higher price point, which gets us the same amount of money as if we were doing one of those walk-in salons where we were servicing 7-8 clients per person at a very low price point. Okay, so there's two real ways to be a business in this industry. One is that very high volume, high quantity with low price point, and the other one is going to be lower volume, lower quantity of clientele with a higher price point. That's going to be more of a niche type of service, and you're going to offer your clients a little bit more value because they're going to get that kind of more intimate service, that more ambiance. You're going to provide a lot more different things than just hurry up, get your nails in, get in and get out, okay? So that's why it's really important when we're thinking about competition that we don't innately compare ourselves to a business like that, because they really aren't our competition. I'll give you a good analogy. If we talk about the fast food industry, okay, fast food has its place. We all love fast food, but it is a very specific thing, right? You're expecting to get very fast service for a cheaper amount of money, and you're willing to make a lot of kind of concessions or sacrifices on your expectation levels because of the price point that you're paying. Now, if you go to a steakhouse or a very expensive restaurant, let's talk about a restaurant where maybe it's $50 plus per person to eat at that restaurant, our expectation level is going to be much higher, but we're going to that business for a very specific reason. We're not expecting the fast food service. We're not expecting that type of atmosphere. We're expecting a very specific high service level type of experience with much more high quality ingredients. Everything needs to be much more dialed in, and it is more niche. So we might go to this very expensive restaurant maybe once a month, once a quarter, once a year, depending on what our budget allows. But I want you guys to understand that if you are the steakhouse of nails, if you're a very fancy restaurant of nails in that regard, then your competition is not McDonald's, right? Steakhouses do not consider McDonald's to be their competition. Even though they're both food service industry businesses, they are very, very different when it comes to what services they're actually providing and how they're providing them, okay? So don't compare yourself to a nail salon just because they do nails. You need to get a little bit more granular with your analysis of competition. So I want you guys to really focus on who are the true competitors in your local area, not online, not on social media, who in your actual local, 25-mile radius or 50-mile radius, depending on where you are, who truly are the competitors that are offering your same services at the same level that you're doing them, or in a general kind of peer group idea of what we're offering here. So I want you guys to actually go through the exercise of writing down who those competitors are. If you don't know who your competitors are, get online, look for other nail salons or other nail service providers in your area, and take a look at what they're doing. Take a look at how specialized they are. Are they actually as niche as you are? Are they the same echelon as you are? Are they just a walk-in salon that's kind of more of that turnstile of high volume clientele? Or are they more specialized, but maybe in a different type of service? Maybe they focus on acrylics and you focus on gel. So I just want you to do a little bit of analysis on who your competitors are. And I want you to write down exactly what those competitors are offering. What are some of the bullet points that you notice about them? And again, what are some of the differences and some of the similarities between you and that specific competitor? Hopefully you're going to be able to get maybe 1 to 3 competitors that are going to be in your same peer group. If you live in a more urban area, there's going to be a lot more. If you live in a more rural area, there's going to be a lot less. But I want you to start to understand what your competition is doing in your marketplace. Okay, so if we go back to the second part of our price development, then we've also got the conversation of demand. Now, this is a very, very important part of our pricing development because we often, as creatives, right, a lot of us who go into the nail world and the beauty world, we are creatively oriented. And so a lot of times our excitement and our passion for the creative side gets the better of us. And we don't often think about what's truly in demand. So I'll give you a good example. For example, if you are in, let's say, there's always somebody out there that is going to want what you're specifically offering, but I want you guys to think about this from a business perspective and a truly kind of holistic view of what you're dealing with. So if in my market, I'm dealing with, let's say it's a more conservative rural town, okay? So people aren't going to want the more wild nail art. They probably aren't going to want super long stiletto nails, especially if you live in an area like I'm from a very small town where a lot of people work with animals. They might have cows or horses, things like that. The ladies love to get their nails done, but there's also an element of what they have to be able to do with their hands. So these ladies aren't going to be getting stiletto nails. They're going to be getting more active length nails. They're going to need their nails to be very strong. And a lot of them are a little bit more conservative, so they may not be going for the wild nail art. And a lot of them are also on a budget because they don't have all the money in the world to spend on just their nails. They've got a lot of other expenses that they have to think about, like their families, their animal care, their homes, maybe they're into farming, things like that. And so that is a consideration. So if I open a nail salon in my small hometown that specializes in giant, long, 3-inch stiletto nails with the wildest crystals and, hand-painted nail art, and I charge $150 for a nail set, there probably isn't going to be very much demand for nails like that. Now, that may be what I want to do and what I want to work on. Now, that may be what I want to work on and what brings me joy as the service provider, but I'm not taking into consideration the demand that's in my area. And so there's going to be a disconnect between what I want to provide as a service provider and what the people in my market actually want. Okay, so that is why demand is so important. And the way we feel out demand is we start to take note of what people are getting on their nails. So next time you go out to do, running errands or whatever, I want you guys to also really take the blinders off of what you like to wear and what you like to work on and the kind of nails you like to do. And I want you to really start to look at what people have on their nails in your area, okay? Now, if you're wanting to change the demand, if you're wanting to push the envelope a little bit, that is a possibility. But realistically, we do need to take into consideration the demand that's in our area. And demand can also play a huge role in where we set ourselves up. If we set ourselves up, let's say we work from home, for example, if that's possible in your area, but we live on the outskirts of town, it's going to be very low demand for people who are willing to drive half an hour outside of town to go get their nails done. So again, we have to think about not only the demand for the services that we're providing, but also the demand as to, are we going to where the people are? Are we going to, where that volume is going to be? And are we providing services that those people are interested in? That is also an extremely important part of what we're talking about when we talk about price points. The third part, and this is really where we get stuck, is production costs. A lot of us look at pricing from a bottoms-up perspective, which means we just want to calculate how much it costs us to do something, charge 2x or 3x that cost, and then we feel like we're set up for success. Production costs are actually only one component of what we need to consider when we're developing our pricing. Production costs are things like how much gel we're using on a specific client. And again, I like to refer to gel because that's what I work on. I'm a gel nail technician, but again, it could be nail polish, acrylic, dip, poly, tips, whatever you're talking about. We look at it from a material cost, the material that we're using in our services. We look at it from a time perspective as to how much time we're investing in that specific service. We look at it from an overhead perspective, which means all of those fixed costs that we have to pay for, like our utilities, our rent for our the place that we work out of, whether that be a home or that be a salon suite or a full-on salon, whatever that might be, that's also part of our overhead. Anything that really is a cost associated with us running our business would be what I would consider production costs, because those costs exist in an effort to allow us the ability to even provide the services that we want to provide, okay? But a lot of us get fixated and stuck on this specific part, and without understanding our competition and our demand and what our market is willing to bear as far as prices are concerned, we can immediately price ourselves out of our marketplace. Remember, I was talking about how, if I decide I want to go against, my market's demand, or maybe I don't even take that into consideration. I go and I start saying, I'm going to offer these 3-inch long stiletto nails in my nice conservative rural town, and I'm going to charge $150 for them. That might all cover your production costs that you've come up with. That might allow you to use the products that you want to use. That might be able to pay for your rent and all of your utilities. But how many clients are actually going to walk through the door? And this is where that disconnect begins, where people say, well, I thought I had calculated things correctly, but I'm still not able to make it every month. And that's because there's a huge disconnect between what you've developed as a bottoms-up approach on your pricing and what the market is really willing to bear. Now, the last piece of this development of our price is what clients are willing to spend. And I did talk about this as part of demand, but demand is not only just, what is wanted as far as a service, or maybe there's an area of opportunity as to someone else is not already offering this service yet, but there is also a market limit. And this really depends on the socioeconomic status of the majority of the people that live in our local area. And again, this is also another place that we get stuck, because we often go on social media and ask other people in other areas what they're charging for services, and this can cause a major problem. So if I go on Facebook or Instagram, or maybe even just, some other group, TikTok, whatever it might be, and I just go on there and I say, hey guys, what are you charging for a gel polish manicure? I am going to get a crazy list of different numbers. I might get prices as low as $25. I might get prices as high as $80 and beyond. And a lot of that pricing is going to come from lots of different areas of the country. Just because someone in New York City is willing to spend $75 on a gel polish manicure does not mean that my clients in my small hometown are willing to spend $75 on a gel polish manicure. So I also have to take into consideration what people are willing to spend on their nail care, and I have to bring that back in against my production costs and against my competition and against the demand for different things, and I have to include that as part of my holistic approach. So let's say that I buy all of this product, which a lot of people do. They go, I'm going to be a nail tech. I'm going to find myself a location. I'm going to buy all of the best products. And most people start out with this mentality of, I'm not going to be like those walk-in salons. I'm going to invest in quality. I'm going to give my clients the best, safest products on the planet, which all of us, of course, would love to do. And we come up with a price based on what we think we're going to use in those services. We go online, we say, hey, it sounds like $40 is the right number based on what all my friends in the industry are telling me. So I'm going to charge $40. And in your market, no one's willing to spend $40 on a gel polish manicure, just as an example, okay? So even though you tried to set everything up for success, even though you're trying to provide all of that quality, you're trying to address a need in the market, all of those different things, because you have not addressed these other components, you're going to set yourself up for failure because people aren't going to be willing to pay for that, even if it's the best thing ever. We see this a lot with restaurants where, a restaurant might open in your town and within a year it's closed because they tried to push the envelope too far. They tried to charge too much for something that really wasn't in very much demand. People weren't willing to spend it, or maybe they were, but they were only willing to go maybe once a quarter or once a year for special occasions. And if you don't have a lot of volume of people that you can rely on to come through once a year, then pretty quickly you're going to go out of business. So all of these components are extremely important parts of our pricing. It's not just our production costs, it's not just your service costs. And I know a lot of nail manufacturers, when it comes to products, will provide you a price sheet and say, here's what your service cost is for this specific product line. I've done a lot of this financial analysis with a lot of different salons, and it is something that we all get fixated on. We go, oh, it costs me $7 to do this service based on the products I'm using. We throw everything else out the window, and then we just go, I just need to charge at least $7 to cover my costs. But there's a lot more included in that, okay? So I'm going to go through the next several set of videos, and I'm going to break down how we're actually going to do this analysis on these 4 different components. The first one I want to task you guys with as homework is the competition. I want you guys to look at the competition, and part of the competition is we're going to look at what clients are willing to spend. So competition, remember, is not a business that is completely, diametrically opposed to what you're doing. It is, someone that's in your same peer group. So I want you guys to see if you can find some competition that's in your actual same echelon of what you're wanting to provide or what you are providing. And I want you to look at the price structure that they have set up. And this needs to be within your local community. I would argue that this needs to be within your same, city or county, not even county, I would say town, city, or even maybe metropolitan area. But again, even as you get into metropolitan areas where they're a little bit more urban, there's a little bit more suburban stuff, the pricing structures are going to be different. So I want you guys to look at something within maybe a 30-mile radius and see if you can find some competitors that are in your same echelon. If there aren't any, that's an opportunity that you can take a look at. But I want you guys to kind of write down, maybe 1 to 3 different competitors, what they're doing, what they're specializing in, take a look at their pricing structure, and also maybe visit them, look at how busy they are. Look at, go in on a Thursday afternoon and see if they're full. So I want you guys to see, what's going on with those other businesses. And then on top of it, you can also go around and just ask people, hey, I noticed you have your nails done. They're really cute. Do you mind if I ask you, where you go and, what kind of service you got? Or if you know people on a more personal basis, you could ask them how much they're willing to spend for their nail care. And again, gleaning all of this information for people is really important when we think about where we are currently and where we want to be. Or, maybe we haven't even opened a business yet. We're just thinking about it. Maybe we're in nail school right now. So all of this information is going to be extremely important. But I want to task you guys with a little bit of homework on looking at your competition and also looking at how much people are willing to spend for services. Another great way to look at how much people are willing to spend is come up with pictures of services that you would like to provide. And I want you to show these pictures to people, maybe 1 to 3 different pictures of complete services, and ask people, how much would you pay for this? That's a great way to go about it, just to get an idea of people's price sensitivity. Right now, with the way the economy is in the United States and even in the world market, price sensitivity is a major issue. So we really need to look at how much people are willing to spend, and then we can look at how much we can push that one direction or another based on the value that we're going to provide people, okay? So between now and next week, I want you guys to take a look at those 2 things, and then I'm going to go into detail on looking at our production costs, how you even calculate those, and then we're going to put those production costs up against the demand, the competition, and the price sensitivity of our local market, and see how those things bear out, all right? So thank you so much for tuning in today. I'll be in touch with another video coming soon. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to write below these videos. Send me a note. Let me know, if you've got a specific question related to any of this information, or if you have a suggestion for a future video. I love to interact with everyone who is partaking in this education journey, and I will see you guys next time. All right, bye.